Samantha, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah. So first off, I love to hear, about, for our listeners to hear a little bit about you and just how you got into the specialty you're in.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we all have a COVID story, and
Mhm.
that's kind of where mine starts in terms of what I'm doing today. And so I had my son during COVID, and it was in October of 2020. And I was living in the Outer Banks at the time, which is not where I'm from, and I don't know anybody there. We didn't have any family or friends or really anyone in the area except my husband at the time and our newborn son, which we of course loved so much. But once you become a mom, or once I became a mom, I should say, it was like so much pressure to take care of this living thing. And I was running a health business at the time and a wife and taking care of my personal health goals and taking care of the house, right? All of these responsibilities, and I call it the mental load, it just felt so heavy. And so there was this one night where I didn't yet have the words to say how I felt or even what I needed from that. And so I turned to my husband and I was like, I'm going to go journal and I'll be back. And I just picked up the random notebook that I had and I locked myself in our spare bedroom because I didn't know like what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to cry or like scream into a pillow or what, because I was always this like positive person up until this point. But I was like, something is like right there, like underneath my skin, right? Something's going to come out. And so I wrote at the top of these pages, vent sesh, followed by, I feel like I'm dropping all of the balls. And I just really vented for 3 pages about what was actually happening. And it was like the first time truly that I put aside my optimism and my hopes and dreams of like things will get better. And I used to journal affirmations of like I am healthy, I am in a loving marriage, I am a wonderful mom, and gratitude and things like that. And I was like, you know what, no, it's so hard right now. And it was odd because I didn't problem solve in that journal session, and there was no answers or anything, but it felt so good. And I just from there, I closed my journal and I didn't say anything to my husband. I was just like, wow, that felt really refreshing. And it didn't become a daily habit at that point, but it just became something that I knew I could turn to. And it opened the door for me to feel deeper emotions that were anything beyond positivity.
Mhm.
And from there, I started to question more things and really question more emotions, like what I was actually feeling. And I started having harder conversations with my husband and questioning what I wanted as a mom and as a partner and things like that. And ultimately, I decided to leave my husband because I wasn't getting what I needed. I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells. And a big part of that was the journaling process of having the courage to face something that I knew was always there.
Mhm.
And then while I was going through that, I was sharing it on social media, not the hard, messy stuff, but literally just, as a health coach, I was sharing workouts on social media and I was just sharing my journaling, like just a time lapse of me journaling. And people knew I was going through something difficult in my life, yet they saw that I wasn't crumbling and hiding. They saw me as, wow, she's like, happy still and building something out of it. And I can turn to her, I can ask her questions. And that is where they would started asking me questions. And I thought, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I am doing this in a way where I could help people. So that was a long-winded answer of like how I started using journaling in a way that was way deeper than just affirmations and gratitude.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, I think so many of us can relate to that because there was a lot of burnout that came out of the pandemic. And it's funny that you're talking about this. And I'm like, oh, right. I kind of forgot about like, I journaled a lot more during the pandemic. And yeah, just that like stream of
Yeah.
consciousness, like vent session. And it
Yep.
really is so beautiful. And I love how you kind of show that difference between, yeah, positivity and affirmations and gratitude. They are important. They are valuable. But if you're only focusing on the positive and not letting yourself feel just all the feelings and ask the hard questions, yeah, you're sort of missing a piece of things. So it's really beautiful they were able to have this experience and have that sort of open so many doors to you, it sounds like, and really just be able to process things and find a better, happy, truly happier place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was not going to therapy at first, and it was partially because I was in a location where I didn't know anyone, I didn't have any referrals for therapy. But then once I moved back home, and I was going to therapy and journaling, and it was so powerful. So I'm a huge advocate for therapy. And a lot of my clients, they're the type of person who go to therapy, but just like once a month or every now and then. And their therapists say, like, what are you doing in between our sessions? Because our conversations are so much better. They're so much more productive. You are getting so much deeper into our conversations and your emotions. And so I want to just plant that seed too for anyone who is going to therapy and that is your outlet. I think that that is beautiful. And often therapists say, go journal on that. But then I hear like they don't know how. And so, anyways, what we're going to share and talk about, you can use journaling to kind of take that therapy session and then something that sparked, an idea in therapy, or it was like a gut punch in therapy or something, take that and then you can journal through that later and then bring that back to your therapy session to the next one that you have.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Being able to like maybe process it in a different way,
Yeah.
think on it, spend more time there. I like that.
Hmm.
With that, maybe to kind of take a step back, I think a lot of what women are in this place of doing a lot, processing a lot, having a really high mental load. So why do you think that is? Where can people start with that when they're experiencing that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's a few different reasons. The first reason that we have such a high mental load and which spirals into overthinking and all of that is because we have so many responsibilities and we put ourselves in a position to carry it all, right? Even my journal entry was like I'm carrying it all, I'm dropping all the balls. But also society does, right? Women initially were the stay-at-home moms. We did not work. And then we moved into the workforce, yet nobody took our place in our homes.
Mhm.
And so there's this expectation from society, and I think we still have it internally that we have to work, which is hopefully fulfilling. And we're striving to build something meaningful in our career. And we're the ones coming home making hopefully nutritious meals, right? We have standards for ourselves of like it should, quote unquote, should be nutritious, and we should have activities for our kids, and we're the ones to help them do their homework. And right, and we should do the laundry. It's just a lot of standards and expectations that we have for ourselves, that we have from society and potentially other people in your family, in your world. So there's that whole aspect to it. And then the other aspect is that overthinking is something that a lot of us did as children, actually, because it helped keep us safe. And if you think back to when you were a child, you might even think of certain situations where you had to, or maybe you didn't have to, but as a child, you felt like you had to think, okay, will my parents pick me up from school today?
Mhm.
And as a kid, we really shouldn't be thinking that. We should have the confidence that our parents will be there, right? Or maybe, hopefully not, but some kids have to face the question of will there be food on the table? Or will I have a friend to sit with at lunch? Will I, you just think about so many different scenarios, and it's so that we're fed, we are connected, we have a home to go to, we are safe. And those questions kept us fed and safe and all of those things. And that is a type of reward. It's kind of like a dopamine hit of like, oh, wait, when I questioned this, this result happened. And that was a good result. And potentially when you didn't question that as a child, it didn't happen, right? You didn't have friends to sit with, or your parents didn't pick you up. And that was a bad result. And so internally, your brain learns that when you have to overthink, you have to think through things in order to get what you want. And that is just something that your brain picks up on, and it will keep doing that until you become aware of it, and then put in some practices to break that cycle, which is possible if anyone is like nodding their head and thinking, oh my gosh, that was me, my parents were always late. There are ways to break through that, but I share that because it makes sense on why you overthink, and it hopefully sounds like a breath of fresh air of like, oh, well, I can just, it's easier to release that than I maybe thought it would be.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's understanding kind of the root cause of why something is happening is really helpful because a lot of people don't realize, I think, that they are overthinking still. And like, why am I doing this? I don't have to do this. I talked with friends. I've experienced this too, where you're like I'm staying up at night, just like processing the situation. It's like, but nothing good is going to come from staying up till midnight, just thinking about a subject. You're just going to feel horrible the next day, feel more anxious. Is a trap. So understanding why and being like, oh, wait, my brain's tricking me, because otherwise we just think that it is truly something that we need to do. So it's really helpful. And the whole society, woman thing, it's one of my pet peeves, something that I get really angry about that I also like put on myself, or I'm like, I've put myself in this role too. It just frustrates me, I think, because, you know, we are given the access to do whatever we want at this point as women, which is amazing. We can be whatever we want to be. It's fantastic. But then we're also not shown how to be a mom and a professional person. We're not shown how to, manage the household with the help of others. Like we're kind of like you said, taking it all on. And we don't have a village anymore to help us raise the kids and maintain the household and everything. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So
I was just gonna bring up the whole village of like we're always told like create a village or have a village and whatnot, and it's like, but nobody. I think in other countries, I think it's Japan, and maybe I'm sure there's other countries too, Germany maybe too. They their culture is truly like their 5-year-old kids can just walk somewhere and all of the adults will like truly look out for all of the children. So maybe in another country, but yeah, here in America, it's unsafe to do that, right? And we're not taught how to have a village. We're also not taught how to ask for support, but I think something even bigger once you get through the mindset trap of asking for support, what's even bigger is receiving it. Because even if somebody says, hey, can I watch the kids while you go do this? Likely our first reaction is, no, 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 I can do it. Right. It's back to that expectation of like, no, I don't want to put you out. And it shows up in business too, of like, if somebody offers to do something, or we know we have way too much on our plate, our default thought is, I can do it, or I can do it quicker. Let me just do it. So, yet again, we're putting more onto our plate, our mental load, spiking our cortisol, spiking all of our stress and everything, when in reality we don't need to. But it's like you said, that root cause, that root belief. And so many high achieving women and go-getters and goal setters and all the people, they are so aware. And that's the thing that I'm finding is, you are aware that you're overwhelmed, right? You're aware that you have so many responsibilities, and those people jump to problem solving.
Mhm.
They jump to, oh, I should go set some boundaries, or I should delegate, or I should find something that lights me up or something. But when you don't take time to question why you're doing what you're doing, or why it feels so heavy, why your plate is, so full, you're going to come back to that. You're going to come back to that behavior.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those ones you talked about, like the source of overthinking. I feel like we also, a lot of us who are, consider ourselves high achieving or really have high goals for ourselves, we also had that pattern growing up, probably, of like, well, I worked really, really hard on things and I got good grades and then I got into a good school. Like we're rewarded for that type of behavior too. Well, when I took on things, people saw how good I was, and we just can't turn that off then. So yeah, the awareness around the why and questioning that, I think, is really important.
For sure.
And on that note, so where do we go from there? We're like, okay, yes, I'm overthinking. I thinking on too much. where can we go from there to maybe get closer to a clear, calm mind that is available?
Yeah. So this is where my approach is strategic journaling. So again, different from gratitude journaling and affirmation journaling and whatnot. And I call it strategic because it really is personal to what you're going through. And in this conversation, if you're listening to this episode, you're probably overwhelmed and overthinking and can relate to this topic. So I'll share with you some prompts on that. But where it's strategic in taking that specific thing and breaking it down, getting to the root so that you don't get stuck in the emotion and working through it and gaining clarity. And I always love ending in direction and action steps
Mm.
because it just feels like you're moving forward instead of just gaining this awareness, a beautiful aha moment of like, wow, that's why. Cool. Okay, now I'm going to go make lunch or something, right?
Mm.
So, what I would suggest in terms of some strategic prompts, just to give you a taste of what that would look like for the overthinker, for the person who is always on. I feel like that's the person who's always on. That's you're always on at work. You're always on when you come home. You don't give yourself that moment to code switch from like work to home. And then again, your stress goes through the roof. Even at night, the revenge sleep is what I've heard it been called when you're just scrolling because you haven't had a second to yourself and you're trying to stay up even though you want to go to bed.
Mhm.
So all of these behaviors keep you overwhelmed, overthinking about what happened in your day, what didn't happen, your to-do list, what you got done, what you didn't get done, what needs to be pushed to the next day. And so what prompts I would give you, follow my journal prompt flow. So, this is how I break down a prompt so that it starts small, right? And so the first prompt would be something like, what specifically is making me overwhelmed? Or if we want to go with like the on theme, it would be, when did being on actually work for me? Or when did overthinking actually work for me? That's kind of going back to what we were talking about initially. So let's go back there and kind of honor that this did work. So that would be the first one. And then the next one, what am I actually afraid of? So really thinking of, if I stopped overthinking, what's the fear? There's a real fear there of the fact that your needs wouldn't get met potentially. And we could go down so many rabbit holes here. Or the fear, if I stopped being on, what might happen? Or what might people think? A lot of people say, don't worry about what other people think, or it doesn't matter what other people think. But we are humans and we're women too. We're thinking about it anyways. And so I think that's always part of my journaling step is prompt number two. Um, and it's the meaning, and it's all about questioning that, like bringing that to the surface because we're thinking it anyways. So, questioning the meaning, expectations, standards, judgments, that's all a part of this prompt. Then we could move on to the cost. What is overthinking actually costing me? Or what is being on actually costing me? And not just I can't sleep at night or I have low energy, but like, what moments are you missing with your family potentially? Or what version of yourself have you lost because you're always overthinking or you're always on that you don't even know who you are anymore? A lot of moms say that, right? That you've lost your light. And then what is it, once you know all of this, what is it that you actually want? Oftentimes this is like where people jump to or to the next step, but it's so much easier. It's like clear as day to see, oh, what I actually want is not only to be off, what I actually want is to receive support, to ask for support, receive support, and, um, be able to turn off without feeling mom guilt. And then the next step is I call it micro steps. And so you break down whatever your clarity is into teeny tiny steps that will help you inch towards that clarity. So that was kind of a lot. And I do have a document that's free that you will break that down for you. But that takes you step by step of the big scary thing that you're going through that feels so heavy, breaking it down so you can clearly see what it is and then gain clarity from it and then how to get there.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, it is, it could sound maybe if you're just hearing it all at once, like, whoa, 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 wait, what all is all of that? But I feel like that's actually very simple to be like,
Yeah.
okay, what is the actual issue? Why, where did it come from? Why was it beneficial? It's not all bad. It's not just like you like develop these things overnight and they're just all bad. It was, I had its purpose. And then really getting clear then on what do we actually want to do. So I feel like if we skip to that, like you said, most of us probably do, it's not actually what we really want, probably. If we're not going back to really understand what the true problem is, probably just be like, well, I just want my husband to just do more or whatever. And it's like, oh, wait, but
Yeah.
it's not actually my husband not doing more. It's me not being able to help, like, let him help me or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Like, that's really beautiful. And yeah, like you said, we'll link that below in the show notes so that people can take a moment to do that if they're in the car or something and can't just like be sitting writing that down while you're speaking about it. Um,
Yeah, and the actual document is more basic than the actual prompts that I just gave so that it can apply to any emotion and any situation that you're going through. Because, yeah, that first prompt is just actually awareness, and then it's the meaning, and then curiosity, where you start to like, it's the devil's advocate prompt. I say it's like you see things from all perspectives, and then clarity and action. So yeah, it's much more open ended, and
Mhm.
I honestly use that anytime I'm like facing a big decision and I'm in like decision paralysis, or I've used it with like starting a new business. I've used it with my health goals. There's actually a time where I just wasn't motivated to work out and I was forcing myself to work out. And then I wasn't working out and I was judging myself like, oh, Sam, why aren't you working out? Like, you even have a plan, like, you're told what to do every single day and you're not doing it.
Mhm.
And I brought myself through this Calm Mind Blueprint, and by the end, I realized like I actually just don't want to work out right now. And like I worked out as part of my health business for 13 years, almost every single day. And I was like, I just want to rest. I want to focus on my health in other ways. And once I released that pressure of needing to work out, not only did I actually lose weight, which was crazy, but I just felt so much more energized in the morning. And I actually did want to exercise some days, and I allowed myself to exercise on those days that I wanted. It was just like this blueprint gives you the permission. And one thing I talk a lot about is permission slips, but it gives you permission to actually do what you want. And it feels so much more reachable and attainable, and you feel more capable of doing that once you get through all of those like beliefs that you're not allowing yourself to think about.
Mhm. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, the shoulds. Like we should all over ourselves, especially as
Yeah.
women. We're like, oh, to do this thing, especially if we're high achieving, we're like, we have this list of goals, this list of to-dos that just gets so out of hand. At a certain point, you have to be like, but why? Like, why should you? Do you really need to or not? Even things like exercise, yes, it's important for our health, but sometimes there is a time and place to just let it go. And I feel like that your experience is a really common experience of once we let something go, it just can happen on its own and, it's allowed to be or not be. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
As far as the kind of like, I love that you finished the prompts with action tips. 'Cause I think that is really important to like, okay, let's give us a direction. Let's go, go somewhere from here. Do you have any tips as far as like what kind of action items to do, just in case someone is like, oh, I'm going to like overhaul my entire life or something, like maybe not knowing like how micro to have the steps.
Yeah. I have loved that you asked me this question because, yes, I have an example. And that example is something I think a lot of people can relate to, but it's something that I definitely, it is coming from experience. And it's dentist appointments. So, this is something that I used to overthink. And it's crazy because for my kid, he has his dentist appointments scheduled out every 6 months. And for some reason, for me, I try to do that, but there's always something comes up where it's like, oh, darn, it falls on something where it's like a school event or something for work. I have a client call, or I actually currently, my insurance changed and I need to literally change the dentist. It's always something with the dentist. And so calling the dentist and changing my appointment or literally changing the dentist is something that's always on my to-do list. And for you, literally might be the dentist, or it might be like a different type of appointment or calling so and so. And it just stays on our to-do list forever. And when we don't do the thing, it's always in the very back of your minds. It's taking up that mental real estate and adding to the decision fatigue that you already have. But turning that into a micro step, a lot of people would say, oh, to not feel so decision fatigued, if that's your clarity item or clarity that you have, I'll just call the dentist today. But what I mean by micro step is breaking the action of calling the dentist into three different steps. One is looking up the phone number and jotting down the phone number. The second is putting it on your calendar to call maybe in 2 days. And then the third is to actually call the dentist. And sometimes you'll write down that phone number and think, you know what, I have 5 minutes. Why don't I just call right now? But sometimes you truly won't. Sometimes you will look and be like, ooh, I would rather prepare for this meeting than call, because what if I get put on hold, or there's a million reasons. And but you can look up a number. You can Google in literally 30 seconds what that phone number is. So that's just one example of how you can take what already seems like a small task of calling someone and break it down into something even smaller that you'll actually do.
I love that. I love that because yes, it's a fairly simple task, but it is one of those ones where it's like, it's not that important. It'll just sit there forever. And it
Yeah.
does take time. And so I love that with breaking it up, you're also giving yourself like maybe a small win with each thing. Like, okay, I just need to write down the number. Cool. Did that. Nice. I feel good. Like I got some of that done. And then the next step and then the next step. Like I feel like it's so cool. I experience this in my life where, yeah, I have all these to dos. And then I don't ever look back to be like, look at how much I accomplished. I'm just always looking forward to, but I still have all these other things to do. So one of my personal things lately is like, let's look back. Let's celebrate even the tiny wins, the things that I have done, and really be able to appreciate that. So I love that those little micro steps also give you that chance to do that.
Yeah, I geek out over neuroscience, and a lot of the um, prompts that I have, I didn't know it at the time. It was truly just how I was prompting myself through my divorce and self sabotage and things like that. But they're based in neuroscience, and something that is super helpful for people who try to do it all, right? Like you would try to make the dentist appointment, and then you would be like, oh crap, I also need to call this person. I also need to do this. That you're like the overachiever. Something that literally rewires your brain is doing the thing like looking up the phone number and then celebrating that you did the task, but even more so, celebrate that you didn't do the full thing. So
Mhm.
you're celebrating that you have more left. And what you're doing is you're telling your brain that it's great. What's positive about this situation is that you started the work and that you moved forward, even though you have more to do. And that what makes this so positive is that you're breaking the cycle of the all or nothing mindset. Either you do it all or you do nothing, or you try to do every single task on your list. And then you don't feel accomplished because while you were doing that, you got really creative and then you added 10 more things to your list. And then you wanted to get even more done before your partner came home, right? It's this vicious cycle. So celebrate that you did do it and celebrate that there's still some left.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I feel like so many people are probably like, okay, that's a tough one. Like
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to do.
rewiring the brain is so important to be like, I'm okay with there being things on my to-do list, and knowing that it isn't something that has to be done right now. Like knowing that things can be there and we can just let them be and not overthink about them and dwell on them. Just really knowing, okay, the things that were most important, I got done. The things that are waiting can wait. So that's great.
Yeah. You can even take that into your health too with workouts. Like if you can only do, I'm sure you talk about this, but like if you can only do 10 minutes of a workout, and it's a 30-minute workout, celebrate that you did 10 minutes knowing that there's 20 minutes left. Celebrate that there was some left and you still showed up. Like it's more less celebration of what you did, but we're still, of course, cheering you on for that. But more celebration of like, and you chose to do that even though there was 20 minutes you didn't do. Like that's the most incredible part.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah. And I feel like too for women, like I always along that same vein, I always encourage people like to show up and to also listen to their body. So for example, if it is a
Yeah.
workout where they're like, "Oh my God, I just was so tired, first day of my period, and just didn't have the energy to do that crazy workout." Scaling back, I think should be celebrated because you're listening to your body, listening to what your body needs at that, moment and not getting caught up in, oh, but I'm supposed to do this full out thing and I'm supposed to do it regardless of how I feel. I think so many of us do that, get stuck in that pattern also. So I love
Mhm.
that. Like, let's celebrate just showing up and doing what we're doing. And that's great. That's, really what we need. Yeah.
Yeah, and giving yourself permission to not show up when that's
Mhm.
the answer too.
Yeah, totally. I love
Yeah.
this. Well, I think you've given so many really helpful things here. Are there any other tips that you want to leave the listeners with as far as, how to do this, how to get more out of it, other tips?
So much is flooding to my brain right now, but I think based on what we're talking about and knowing that these are high achieving women and that are listening, you're probably thinking that you need to do this journaling process like every single day of the week.
Mhm.
And so, what I want to share is just a quick tip that to be consistent in something, it's you don't have to do it every day. Consistency is just any pattern. And so there's actually research that says that you can get the benefits of journaling, the benefits being less stressed, actually improved immunity, like so many benefits from just journaling 3 to 5 days a week. So just 3 days a week for 5 to 15 minutes. So 3 days a week for 5 minutes. But honestly, even journaling one day a week, like every Sunday, is better than sporadically. So pick a day or a time that you can be consistent. And also, if you've tried journaling before, but you've never journaled in this strategic way where you're applying it to yourself and not a prompt about a sunny day that you were at a pool or something, this is going to feel different and you're going to want to keep digging deeper and want to show up. So I highly encourage you to try it. And I think you're going to be amazed.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think there would be that idea of like, well, then I have to do it every day. And if I'm not consistent, then I'm failing at this too.
Right, right.
Right. Like, you really can get the benefit for just doing it even weekly. So
Hmm. Yeah.
amazing. Well, where can people find your Calm Mind Blueprint and just learn more about you?
Yeah, you can find my Calm Mind Blueprint on my website. I'll give you the link. It's kind of long, but it's www.samanthapenkoff.com/calm hyphen mind hyphen pod. So you can find it there. And the way to get in touch with me, I'm not on social media as much anymore. That's something that I actually identified through strategic journaling, but I'm loving my newsletter. So actually, if you sign up for my Calm Mind Blueprint, you'll be on my newsletter where I give strategic prompts. But I am on Instagram from time to time. So my Instagram handle is samantha.s.says. And I also have a podcast called Journal Entries.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Samantha. This is such a pleasure having you on. Again, I think it's going to be so helpful to just give these it's like quick action that can happen and just really open things up for people and just allow them most likely to be even more productive and more fulfilled and more balanced in their lives without having to just like spin their wheels on all this overthinking and overdoing. So I really
I hope so. You're welcome. And thanks for having me.
pleasure.